Oh, yeah.
Tundra. Got traffic there. Blaster. Tundra. Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a left downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left base, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final. Runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you clear to land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway, and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern, or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, you're on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday evening live stream. And I am kind of keeping my fingers crossed like internet connection is going to hold out, which is not guaranteed. So if I just disappear, Aladdin-like, if that's appropriate, then someone else will give something a rub and take over, or I guess, or something. Anyway, first things first, I have to say massive thank you to Sky Demon for supporting the live stream and for bringing you the weekly tips, of which one is about to come here when I press the button.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Sky Demon, and this is today's top tip.
If you're planning a longer journey, you may wish to break it up into shorter legs with one or more landing points along the way. For example, if you need to stop for fuel. First, plan the route as a whole. Then hold your finger on the airfield you want to add as an intermediate landing point and tap routing. Land here. The route is now divided into 2 sectors, each with its own pilot log, planned fuel, and virtual radar. The active sector is bolder and highlighted blue, and you can tap to change it. You can also change the landing to a different airfield if you need to, just by dragging it with your finger. To remove the landing point and rejoin the sectors back together into one route, bring up the What's Here menu and choose Routing, Do Not Land Here.
For more information on using Sky Demon, take a look at our user guide, which you can access from our website.
Blimey, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's brilliant. There's a whole load of stuff, and it does make life so much easier if you actually use all of those things as opposed to jumping in, going direct. Don't worry about the airspace; they'll get out of the way for me, kind of thing. I guess we'll be talking about that kind of thing a bit later, won't we?
Paul Goodell says, if I can get it to flash up, thanks to Tim and Sky Demon. I know Paul's been dealing with a bunch of rubbish drone TDAs, and Sky Demon's obviously been helping out there with no time showing on the software.
Makes it an awful lot easier. Can you imagine what it would be like? I don't think I would bother to go flying if I had to get a telex printout and plot lat longs for all of the stuff every time. I think at that point I'd hang out my headset, as it were. But yeah. So well done, Sky Demon. Now, I think if I got these things right, I was at the Poolies Dawn to Dust last week, so I haven't done this for a week, and I think we go to weather next, and we don't have Simon here, but we have a rather long recording from him because it's complicated weather this weekend, so I'm told. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds like an excuse, but
okay, it does sound like an excuse. My play video button is acting up, so I'm going to try and do it again, and let's see what happens this time.
Okay. Oh no!
No, see that wasn't the button. That was me. I just screwed that one. Here you go. Have some weather.
Hi everyone. Hope that this evening finds you well. Sorry I can't be with you this evening. The weekend looks a bit hit and miss for flying. There are some windows in there, but it is going to be rather messy. Now, what I've done is decided to show you some slightly different charts today. I've taken the fronts off, and what I'm going to show you are charts of cloud, of rain, and of pressure. And I think this tells the story better than just the standard frontal charts, particularly when we've got such a complex situation as we've got this weekend. So this is the forecast cloud, pressure, and rain for midday on Friday. So cloud is shown by the white colours, where we see darker colours, such as in here. That's where the cloud is broken, and we've got completely clear skies. And then the colours on here are forecast effectively radar. So the darker the blue, and as we get into yellower colours, the heavier any rain is likely to be. And we've got isobars marked on there as well. You can see here every 4 hectopascals. So basically I've just removed the fronts from these charts. Now for Friday, you can see plenty of cloud around across many parts of the country. Yes, some breaks across eastern Wales, across parts of the Midlands. Quite breezy as well. The isobars quite close together across more southern areas, but you see it's generally dry. 1 or 2 showers northern and western parts of Scotland and for Western Ireland, but most areas tending to be on the dry side. Typical cloud base is 2 to around 4,000 feet across much of England, Wales and Ireland. The tops are about 8 to 9,000 feet. Across Western Scotland, a little bit lower, tops here probably at about 1,000 to 2,000 feet, tops at about 7,000 feet. And across western parts of Ireland, visibility reduced here as low cloud moves in. We've got bases of less than 1,000 feet, tops at about 8,000 feet here. So it's not bad overall, particularly with that cloud breaking, but it will be quite breezy. Westerly winds typically between about 15 to 18 knots, could be gusts at sort of 20 to 22 knots or so. Now, again, for Saturday, I've taken the fronts off the charts. You can see here just how cloudy it is again across many parts of England, Ireland and Wales. Although notice that across Wales and across central England, there are some breaks coming through in the cloud. Those grey colours you see here showing that the cloud is going to be breaking. Different story across northern England, where we have a low cloud. I think bases here probably 1,000 to 2,000 feet at best, tops at about 8,000 feet. And notice as well these bits of rain hanging around. So could be damp in places across northern England with some hill fog. Southern parts of England, the cloud does break. Bases getting up to about 3,000 feet, tops at about 10,000 feet, but still these big plates of cloud drifting around. And across Ireland, quite drizzly, lower cloud here, 1,000-foot bases, tops at around 6,000 feet. Eastern Scotland faring better. See the dark colours there? That's the skies clearing there, and bases about 4,000 feet, tops at about 7,000 feet. Western parts of Scotland, though, messy, bits of drizzle, bases again about 1,000 feet, tops at about 8,000 feet here. See what I mean about it being a messy day? Quite breezy in the far south, westerlies 15 to 18 knots, light winds further north. And then finally for Sunday, more organised rain getting through much of Scotland and Northern Ireland on Sunday. Bases here less than 1,000 feet in that rain, tops about 12 to 15,000 feet, and windy too. Notice the isobars close together. So that southwest wind really packing a punch. I think for northwest England, for northern and western parts of Wales, for much of western and southern Ireland, lower cloud here, bases 1,000 feet or less, tops probably about 8 to 10,000 feet. Inland areas away from those western coasts, faring better. Here, bases about 3,000 feet, tops at around 8 to 10,000 feet, and a better day overall with lighter winds for England and Wales. So Sunday actually looks the pick, I think, for many parts of England and Wales, although much windier and much more unsettled across Scotland. Wow, I did tell you it was a complex situation, lots to get in there, so my apologies for that, for it taking so long, but hey, hopefully that set you up for the weekend picture. No weather school dates yet because they're all completely full. But if you want to keep your hand in, go down and have a look at weatherschool.co.uk, and there you will be able to see lots of different freebies of weather learning that I've got on there for you. Okay, I'll leave you with that for now. I've taken up enough of your time. So thanks again for watching. Keep the sun shining, and I'll see you next week, guys. Bye for now.
Right.
Wow.
That was a comprehensive forecast.
That's all a bit complicated, isn't it? I think. Yeah. Good luck with that, people. Right. I think
Andy says, "Don't you hate disorganised rain?"
I do hate disorganised rain. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of rain. Full stop. Actually, disorganised, organised, unionised, whatever it is. Okay, where are we going next? I think it's time for Johnny to be Sarah and tell us all about the club.
Yeah, so if you're not a member, obviously, you can join the Fly Club for £5 a month. And this month, that gets you free landings at Eschot, Middlezoy, Holmbeck Farm, Fishburn, Fenland, and also a cheaper landing voucher, landing fee at Blackpool if you take 40 litres, or a free landing voucher if you take 50 litres. And amongst all the other things that we've got going on, including all the content on fly.co.uk, we've got a whole year's worth of webinars lined up for you, which we started off last month with Thomas from Flieger magazine giving us a talk on how to fly and tour around Germany. And next week, we've got Darren Lewington in to talk about air traffic control. Darren, if you're watching, we will reply to your email, because I know there is one in the inbox. March, we've got a quick chat, or it could be a long chat, from Will Flood about buying and selling aircraft. In April, we've got Greeners talking about UPRT, and then we've got all sorts throughout the year, from flying abroad, farm stripping, bush flying in Africa, crossing the Atlantic, weather. Guess who that'll be? Mr. Simon. And even talks about licensing as well. So there's all sorts you can get for just £5 a month, which is basically a pint of beer. So if you're not a member, you're missing out.
Absolutely, you're not only supporting the live stream, you're supporting everything you do. I think you did. I'm going to just pick you up on one. We've got to work our way around the country, Peter, but we will get there.
There's some in the far southwest to come, I'm sure. So
we missed Peter, did you ask that because you live in the far southwest or because you want to visit the far southwest? Because the fact that there are different places in the country gives you a chance to go there, doesn't it? I don't know. Johnny, I'm going to pick you up on one mistake you made there.
Go on, then.
You forgot to mention that the free landing fees are sponsored by Poolies.
Yes.
Thank you, Poolies.
Thank you, Poolies.
Thank you, Poolies, for doing that. Absolutely. Right. It's time for some news. Just so you know, Jonathan Smith's sitting there safely in the green room looking, and we'll be getting to Jonathan shortly to go and find out all about the AMS airspace modernisation strategy. And we're going to actually try and do the whole lot without any acronyms, which is going to be our challenge. But before we get to that point, it's time for some news, I think. So, Dave, you should be leading this one away, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Last week, Cirrus issued a statement warning owners and operators of its SR-22 piston aircraft that there was an engine issue coming down the line and that they had decided to pause flying in its factory aircraft. So what was the issue? On Monday, Continental issued a mandatory service bulletin, no doubt after a frantic weekend, saying they discovered during inspection an issue on how crankshaft counterweights are secured on new and rebuilt engines between June 2021 and February 2023. Apparently, the fix starts with an inspection, which apparently can be done by removing 3 of the 6 cylinders, and engines in that period should be still under warranty, so Continental will be paying. Oddly, though, it only applies to aircraft that have flown less than 200 hours during that period. Apparently, if you've clocked more than 200 hours, you've made it. You're okay.
Like, these parts will have flown off by then. So
Yes.
That's a good. Yeah. No, indeed. If you imagine if your engine's got 201 hours and you're going, well, it should be all right now, shouldn't it? It was an interesting thing because there's not been an AD issued yet, has there? As far as I'm aware.
No.
So
service bulletin.
Even though it's a mandatory service bulletin, it's not strictly speaking mandatory because only an AD is mandatory. So you could, should you choose to, ignore it completely, which you'd be mad to do, particularly given that Continental are going to be paying someone else to take the cylinders off, have a good look, and fix everything. So,
and you have to be. We were chatting about this in the Livestream actually yesterday. Obviously, taking cylinders off is a lot less bad than having to strip the engine, but still, taking the cylinders off, you've got to be a bit careful because it all affects the kind of tension across the engine, doesn't it? There's a bunch of stuff that can potentially, get messed up if you don't do it right. So
it does. I think Continental have kind of explained how to minimise that risk as far as possible, or even eliminate it in the procedure in the SB. And they've even written instructions for how you can field manufacture your own not pilots clearly, but engineers. How your engineering company can field manufacture its own feeler gauge to make sure it's got the right spacing between the things that hold on the counterweight doogies or whatever they're called.
Nick Allen's got a good observation. Bet there were intense lawyer-engineer conversations about the 200-hour limit.
It's interesting. I mean, my understanding is that. Can I say? Yeah, my understanding is that clearly when this came about, there were some intense conversations going on between the interested manufacturers who have a lot of those engines, and there's basically one main one of those, although there are some others, Continental and the FAA, and there would have been an awful lot of toing and froing and discussing, and I'm sure the lawyers would have been involved, but I'm equally sure that everyone the Continental have done a pretty good job, I'd say, of stepping up and fixing this. It would have been better for it not to happen in the first place, but it's not the first time there's been a problem with engines. There was a fairly big Lycoming crankshaft issue before, so
yeah, pretty much everyone who can make parts for engines seems to have had something over some time, haven't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, just for the benefit of neutrality, we should probably mention Rotax's sinking floats, carburetor floats as well, shouldn't we? Oh dear. Right. What else? What's the next story?
Another engine story.
Johnny.
Yeah. So a motorcycle engine from BMW is now approved as an alternative power unit for the Exodus Delta Jet 500 Stingray, which is one hell of a name, which is a flexor in micro, if you didn't know. So the BMAA completed the evaluation. It's a 2-cylinder boxer from the R1200 GS bike, and they issued the approval earlier this week. It's been adapted for use by a company called Takeoff, who are a German company. It's fitted with a reduction gearbox, centrifugal clutch, and vibration absorber, which does all sorts of fancy things like disengages the prop at low RPM, and engages it as engine speed increases. And they basically found an increased rate of climb, reduced takeoff run compared to the Rotax 912 ULS. That's a quote from Rob Mott, the BMAA's chief inspector. And the Delta 500 is a British designed flex wing, if you didn't know. But there are some sort of basically maintenance differences really compared to the Rotax. So you have to check valve clearance after 10 hours, generator belt after 100 hours, and replace it after 200. Air filter cleaning every 500 hours, which is pretty normal. But things like gearbox oil, you have to change after 10 hours, and spark plugs, you have to replace those after 400. So there's a few.
It's not every 10 hours, is it? It's the first time for 10 hours.
That's initial, isn't it?
Yeah, first 10 hours. Yeah.
Because gearbox oil every 10 hours would get boring really quickly.
Yeah. And I guess the increased performance comes from the fact that it's 115 horsepower, isn't it?
That's quite an engine for such a small machine.
I mean, it's like an interesting thing, and if it's a similar weight and lower cost, and in the whole Rotax ballpark, maybe we'll see a few more of these appearing on other aeroplanes.
Do we know how much they cost, Dave?
I forgot to look it up, Ian. Sorry.
Okay. I was just musing earlier that you could. I don't know the exact price of a Rotax 9 because the 912 ULS is competition, isn't it? Which is 100 horsepower. This 115 horsepower. I'm pretty sure you can go out and buy a whole BMW GS 1200 with the frame and do all the ridey stuff and that for less than half the price that you can buy a Rotax 912 ULS.
Probably,
or thereabouts. So I'm hoping that those people at what they call Takeoff in Germany. Takeoff in Germany haven't gone, but the gearbox, that's 5,000 million pounds. Something. Let's hope it works out. It looks good. There's another picture here we could put in. It's of the aptly named Delta Exodus Superjet. Really?
John Murphy, 912 ULS cost him 18,000.
John, is that a new 912 ULS that you bought within the last year?
Well, it says it cost him £18,000. I think that does tally because I'm sure I asked the UK agent how much a 912 was a couple of years ago, and I'm sure it was around about 16 then. So,
my mistake in that case. I thought it was significantly more expensive than that. But
yeah. Oh, there we go. We've got unique direct comparisons here because we've got John going 18,000 for a Rotax 912 ULS. Michael Wolf saying my R1250 RT cost me $25,000. That includes the engine.
There you go. Well, in that case, I wonder if anyone's put a Rotax in a BMW. In fact, Rotax make Rotax make many of the motorbike engines for BMW, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if they make that particular one, but they certainly make a bunch of the other ones.
Yeah. Dan Smith says we paid 17k 3 years ago. Wow. And interestingly, I think the range topper, the 915 IS, is somewhere up towards £38,000.
That's inexpensive.
That's punchy.
That is punchy. Right, my news story next, and this is the Dawn to Dusk competition, which is where I was at the awards dinner for the Dawn to Dusk competition last week, which took place at the absolutely stunning RAF Club if you haven't been there and you get a chance to go for any reason, then make sure you go. It's just an amazing building just off Piccadilly. Anyway, the Dawn to Dusk challenge has been around since about 1959, believe it or not, and effectively there are all sorts of very, very simple rules which you can look up on the website. But basically, you just have to pick something and fly something interesting between the hours of dawn to dusk, and then you write up a report on it and present the report. And the judges, of which I'm lucky enough and honoured to be one of them, sits down and comes up with the awards. This year's there are quite a few awards. So if you look at the story on the Flyer website, you can see a list of all of the winners and the awards. But it was Michael Benson and Marie Waldman who won the top award, which for a flight around lighthouses in the southwest, which was fantastic. But just saying it like that doesn't do justice to the flight itself or to the presentation that they made that came with it. There was some absolutely fantastic, brilliant entries. Flying to Norway and back, and that was kind of like, that was interesting because it wasn't cheating, but they decided, because they flew to the land of the midnight sun, they really stretched the definition of between dawn and dusk to over a number of days, as it were. But there were all sorts of brilliant entries. Nick Orchard it was another great entry. Plus there was the Wessex, the Wessex Strut, and Amy Whitewick and the Art Squad.
Yes, yeah.
Who were drawing things, not rude things, I hasten to add, in the sky. So no, absolutely brilliant. The competition's on again. There's still plenty of time to enter. Free to enter. Jump on the Dawn to Dusk website. Again, sponsored by Pulis. Sebastian Puli does an amazing job of this. Go and have a look. See what there is. Find yourself a flight. Fly the flight. Create the log and send the log in, and then come to the RAF Club for a great evening. So there you go. That's all of the winners are on the website. I think we even have a picture. There you go of all of the winners. Nick Orchard was, I think, the only solo entry.
Yeah. Ironically, if the caption is hiding Nick Orchard, who's bottom left.
Yes, indeed. There was some. Derek Pake was in his RV8 bagged in the aerial sense of the word. The Munros, there was a microlight entry that bagged all the Wainwrights. There was all sorts of really fantastic stuff. But anyway, fantastic stuff, fantastic evening, great setting, and just go and it's open to anyone. You can go and do it, and as the winning team proved, you can do it lighthouses off the southwest. You don't have to fly to Norway and back, but it's worldwide as well. So if you're watching, Michael Wolf, you're watching this from Ohio, you could enter. It's a jump in the airplane and go fly and put in an entry. It'd be great to have an entry from Ohio.
Yeah. Very good.
So there you go. Dawn to Dusk. Do it. Look forward to seeing you there next year.
We should get Sebastian on to talk about it. Have we had Sebastian?
Yeah, I'm sure we have.
I think we've had Sebastian on. I think that was kind of, wasn't that a Pulis 60th anniversary? We were talking about the history of Pulis and stuff. But no, we should. Maybe we should get some of the Dawn to Dusk winners to talk about it. And there's been some really nice emails from the winners as well. So yeah, go on, have a go, people. It'll be good. Ed.
Yes. Some Sonex news. So US kit plane manufacturer Sonex. Back in 2021, they announced they were going to do a high wing Sonex, which is called the Big High Wing. Obviously, put a lot of thought into that name. And there's a photo of it. That's been kicking around since 2021, and they've obviously been backburnering the project a little bit and working on some other things because they've got a 2-seat jet on the works. But a recent update from them, they've got some key points for this now. It's definitely going to have a 42-inch wide cockpit, a large door, a step-in height of 602 mil or 542 mil if it's a nose wheel. It's going to have removable wings. It's got fuel tanks in the wings, plus fuel tank in the nose, 2 auxiliary tanks in the wings. It's got a stick, 60 pounds max baggage in 16 cubic feet of space, and it's going to be aerobatic. So joining the ranks of the Cessna 150 and 152 Aerobat for unusual aerobatic high-wing aeroplanes.
Sonex has a bit of an individual look, doesn't it? that is shared throughout the Sonex range.
It does, and when this first came out in 2021, it looked a bit like a Whitman Tailwind in metal. this, and I'm not sure what's happened. I think it's the classic high wing aeroplane. And obviously, when you want a nose, when you want no struts and you want a high wing aeroplane, then you either put the car carry through right in someone's face, or you have to stick the wing on top of the aeroplane. And I think they've gone with stick the wing on top of the aeroplane. And yeah, it's it could be a little prettier, maybe Sonics. Is all I think. So
when I saw my first Sonics, which was obviously a gazillion years ago now, I kind of just went, "Oh my god, that's ugly." But they're kind of growing on me, you know. There's definitely a kind of function over. I've got a growing respect for.
And they have a little niche. They're kind of simple to build and kind of lower cost, and they're pretty popular. And you don't see so many of them over here, but you see a few of them in the States. As Richard Kennedy said, presumably removing the wings and aerobatic can be achieved at different phases of flight. Let's hope.
Hopefully so. And if you didn't know, fun fact about Sonics is that the company is based at Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
And hopefully we'll get to talking of Oshkosh. Hopefully we'll get to see the high wing, the big high wing from Sonics at Oshkosh this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well done, Sonics. Ed, tell us about free money.
Oh yeah, I've got another story, haven't I? So free flying, one of my favourite subjects for news. That's right, it's free money for people learning to fly. And that's because there's 120 scholarships and bursaries now available from the Air League. The application window for 2023 has just opened, and that's going to be open until 12 noon on Sunday, the 30th of April. This year sees the introduction of several changes, including a 3-hour scholarship to complement 5 and 12-hour awards to provide introductory courses into aviation and aerospace. There's going to be a Prince Philip Award. That's a flying scholarship that will be awarded to a previous flying scholar who's displayed outstanding potential and allows the individual who is the member of the Air Training Corps, oh gosh, it's complex, and holds a Duke of Edinburgh Award to achieve their full UK PPL. Blimey. There's the minimum age has been lowered for some gliding scholarships to 14. Anyway, the minimum age, so there's no upper age limit across all the scholarships. I think you need to be 16 for the powered ones and be able to hold a Class 2 medical. But otherwise, I'll stick a link in the comments to our news story, and that will take you to the Air League. So if you know someone who wants some free money for flying, you should go and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you hurry up and you get flying sooner or later, you may even find, once you've got your license, as an airfield or two you can fly to, which brings us to our next story. Dave.
Right, yes, bit of an airfield catch-up here. Swansea Airport. The CAA has just suspended its operating license. It seems there's a lot of dissatisfaction with how the current airfield operator is running things. Apparently they haven't had an accountable manager for a while. This is one of the things that the CAA insists on. But there was a tweet, actually. I found a tweet from Lord Gower, otherwise known as Byron Davies, who's a leading light in the all-party parliamentary group for general aviation and a pilot. He said, Swansea Airport, an unbelievable tale of decline over the years by its current operator. Why has Swansea Council, the owner, failed to ensure the lessee maintains the airport's infrastructure? And why has the council just renewed the lease? So not happy days down at Swansea Airport, I don't think. There are 2 flying schools there. They're both still operating, I understand, because they don't necessarily have to have the license in place. Anyway, got good stuff going on at the moment. Hopefully that'll be sorted out. White Waltham, there's a plan apparently to redevelop the office block next door. Doesn't actually impinge on the airfield itself, but they're going to raise the height of this. This is what's planned, and these buildings will be higher than what's there at the moment. I didn't realise this until I was looking at the stuff from White Waltham, and I had a quick email conversation with the airfield manager. that apparently one of the things at White Waltham they're desperate to retain and achieve is that it feels like a country airfield. You know, instead of being right next to Maidenhead, which is a big development, and Reading's not far away and all that, they actually try to make it feel as though it's in the middle of the country. So they planted a row of trees along the edge of the airfield to screen. You can see the row of trees to screen the buildings. But if it goes ahead with the height planned, it'll be poking above those trees.
And interestingly, I think the CIA have got a whole bunch of safeguarding rules about certain building heights and distance from the airfield, haven't they? So,
but one of the worrying things about this case actually is that White Waltham, the airfield, only found out about this after the consultation date had gone past. But they're supposed to be consulted. There is with the council, there is a aerodrome safeguarding document that says they must be consulted on anything that is adjacent to the airfield. Anyway, they've kind of not exactly got round it, but they've been able to make comments and address the council directly by email. But slightly worrying that happened in the first place.
And to complete your trilogy?
Complete the trilogy. Old Sarum. The saga of Old Sarum goes on. Apparently, another plan has been put forward to build some houses on parts of the site. It's being discussed by the local parish council next Monday. I say apparently because, despite scouring all sorts of places, I have not yet found the plan. And I've contacted the people who we normally have contact with at Old Sarum to try and share the plan with us, but it's not available. So if anybody's seen it, let us know. But I guess we'll know for sure on Monday.
Wasn't there? Were we looking at a future where Old Sarum was suddenly going to open back up a little bit to GA? Did I imagine that? Or was that?
Well, it is already open to a skydiving operation that's there, but
it was really just them who was operating there, wasn't it? I seem to recall that there was this talk of a future where they might open up a little bit more.
Well, I think, there's this battle of wills going on between the airfield owners and the local councils, and they've really sort of wound each other up to the point where there's not much cooperation going on. However, having said that, there is a desire both at Wiltshire County Council and in Salisbury to move on from where they are stuck at the moment. One bit of good news in this is apparently the World War I listed hangars. There's some work going on to look after them because they had kind of fallen into a state of disrepair. But there's stuff going on there.
Peter Griswold confirms not for visitors, we were told.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who'd want airplanes on a runway, for God's sake? I mean,
yeah, sure. Right, last item.
Sorry, before we get to the last item, just banging on the back, not banging on the background. There's the whole thing about Ruffham that's still going on. That looks like that's being locked. But I think I did see something about a petition being got up for Ruffham, although I'm not sure if that's what state of that. There's a random picture in here that should we have had that in there? I haven't used. Have I missed that somewhere? Graham Wiley getting ready for takeoff.
That's for Fantasy Hangar, Ian.
Oh, sorry. Right, carry on.
Last item is just in today. This year's Fly 23 challenge has a new sponsor. Avionics have come in and will be offering some of its products as prizes. So that's good news. So brilliant. Just to remind you, Fly 2023 is fly 2,023 minutes and visit 23 airfields. They don't have to be brand new airfields to you. Just 23 airfields. There's only one person who's probably going to visit 23 brand new airfields, and that's Iceman, Park Saunders. He does absolutely pork it out, actually. Never stop flying.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Good. I think it must be time for our special guest, Jonathan. So I'm gonna bring Jonathan on. Jonathan, I'm gonna move you up there a little bit. I'm gonna tweak this bit here. There you go. Jonathan Smith, thank you very much and welcome. Jonathan, for anybody who doesn't know Jonathan, I'm sure if you've been on the forum, you all know Jonathan over the years. Jonathan is a Cub pilot, has an air traffic control background. It's a jolly decent chap and currently earns his money working for the Civil Aviation Authority, where he works on things like airspace and airspace modernisation. Would that be, have I got any of that badly wrong, Jonathan?
Yeah, they call me a subject matter expert for the airspace modernisation strategy. That's my title.
So you're one of those. So I'm glad you said subject matter expert, because I was going to say, oh, so you're an SME, but we're going to try and make this entire chat acronym free, because airspace and the airspace modernisation strategy, AMS, as it were, is just full of acronyms all over the place, and as is aviation. So we're going to try and bring this, because most of us fly for fun, as do you, Jonathan. But you also work in the subject, and so let's try and keep it.
I was going to try £1 to airability for every time I lapped into an acronym.
Good idea.
If only we'd known, we would have got you a buzzer.
Yeah, there are some sound effects in here, but none of them are.
That's all right. I'm quite willing to sit there and be human buzzer.
Okay, you can be a human butter. So buzzer, sorry, human butter. Okay, right. We have spoken about the airspace modernisation strategy before, but there's obviously been a bit of an update. So for those of us who don't follow it all day, every day, what's changed? Where are we now in the timetable? Where's the process moved on to?
Well, I think last time we spoke to you, Ian, me and my boss, Stu Lindsay, were in Stu's shed, and I'm in my shed tonight. He's on the west coast of Ireland with no internet connection at all, which is ironic given that you're in South America and it's working fine. But yes, so where have we come? Well, last time we spoke to you, we were in the middle of the consultation for the refreshed airspace modernisation strategy. And I'm pleased to say that after a lot of work and effort and gathering of people's opinions, that the refreshed airspace modernisation strategy was published in January. And as far as tonight's conversation is concerned, 8 specific areas to do with the modernisation of lower airspace in the UK made the cut. They were all consulted upon, offered up by the GA community as contender items. And yeah, I'm really pleased to say that they've all made it into the airspace modernisation strategy.
Okay, so they've made it in there. They've all been consulted on. What's the timescale from here? What happens next?
So the strategy itself goes out till 2040, and so it would be cruel to say that we're not going to start any of them until 2039. That is not the case. But we aren't contemplating. In fact, it's very difficult to contemplate exactly what our airspace would look like. Certainly post 2040, it's quite difficult to think what it may include up to 2040. But these specific elements about modernising the lower airspace, we think will serve us well for a integrated, interoperable lower airspace out to that date.
Okay, so to turn that from it's not going to be 2039, when do you think we'll start seeing some of the work starting to happen? So
I'm bound to say this, but we've already kicked off some work in areas. I'm thinking specifically electronic obstruction beacons, which we can now confirm would be ADSB beacons. We'll come back to ADSB usage and frequencies, no doubt.
Sorry, is that £1 or
automatic dependent surveillance broadcast beacons? Dear, oh dear, that's £1, isn't it? Yeah. Once I've spaced out the acronym, can I shorten it again, or do I need to stick with it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's a mean one to catch you on that.
Yes. I'm just thinking of all the ones which I don't know what the acronym stands for, but hopefully we won't get there. So no, ADSB beacons, electronic obstruction beacons, would be an example where the Airspace Modernisation Strategy Support Fund funded a piece of work before Christmas where we trialed the operational deployment of the concept of operations. And in that case, it was using an ADSB beacon to electronically mark an obstruction on the ground. And the reason that we're trialing this stuff is because electronic obstruction beacons are not really being used outside of North America. And we really wanted to understand whether they're relevant for the UK and in turn the European environment. And they do work on a different frequency on 978 megahertz as a second ADSB frequency. So it was quite important that we did an operational trial as to their effectiveness, their deployability. So that sort of work has already kicked off. We've got an awful lot of information back about the effectiveness of deploying a beacon. And there is other ongoing work. Trials within a transponder mandatory zone have been ongoing about the use of ADSB on varying platforms. So light aircraft and drones around Goodwood have been trialed, and there's an ongoing piece of work looking at that. So we are getting on with the work. The actual deployable facets, all 8 of them, probably easiest to articulate what we think are the biggest pieces of work, which is basically the standardization of UK flight information services in the UK. So the adoption of an international civil aviation organization, an ICAO style FIS in the UK, in lieu of the current suite of United Kingdom flight information services.
Okay, well, I'll come to the flight information services one in a little while, but just kind of your mention of the obstruction beacon and the ADSB standard for that. How does that? How does the airspace modernisation strategy and electronic conspicuity? What does it have to say about electronic conspicuity?
Well, what we didn't know and was not confirmed at the time we went to consultation is what frequencies we were going to enable this digital flight information service package to operate on. We had a good idea, the Civil Aviation had a good idea, but the Department for Transport via the previous Transport Minister, Grant Shapps, was really clear that he wanted some more engagement with industry to identify appropriate frequencies and modes to enable this stuff on. And just before we published the airspace modernisation strategy in January, just before Christmas, if my memory serves me correctly, we announced that we will be adopting a dual frequency ADSB strategy in the United Kingdom. I think we're probably the first country in Europe to formally say that we're going to use both ADSB frequencies of 1090 and 978. The advantage of having the second frequency is obviously we reduce saturation on 1090, but also we can deliver a lot of other digital services using that second frequency, and the electronic obstruction beacons being just one example of those. And so, yes, we now have a clear direction for electronic conspicuity in the UK, that we will be working towards interoperability using 2 ADSB frequencies, 1090 and 978.
Okay, so, and again, that kind of will blend in, I presume, into this kind of flight information service. It might be slightly cruel to say that the UK has developed a bit of a mishmash of flight information services. We used to have a kind of flight information service. We reinvented a whole bunch of names around that, and we called them different things. And now we probably use more listening squawks than anywhere in the world, I would imagine. And we've also got a kind of situational awareness, low-level military frequency that we can now use to listen out on, as well as stuff from London. There's an awful lot of different things going on, and different agencies providing different bits of information. So this kind of, are we talking about a joined-up flight information service across the country? Or are we?
So the sort of mishmash that you describe, Ian, is exactly what the consultees, when prior to going out to consultation on the refreshed AMS, were describing. There's huge demand for a unified, recognisable, joined-up air traffic service in the UK. And while we might have fractionalised provision as far as we have multiple air navigation service providers, it was really clear that they don't necessarily all talk to each other or interact or deliver a unified, understandable service. And so one of the key elements that was consulted upon and has made it into the AMS is the adoption of a standard ICAO, I have expanded it once, flight information service, which would be completely recognisable to somebody that flies in Europe, in France or Germany, and also something that it will be very akin to a flight following service, which would be very recognisable in the States. And this will all be on the basis that the intentions of what you are going to do, you will have that possibility to share those intentions prior to going flying, and that information will be shared and then passed on between various agencies that are likely to service you during the course of your flight.
Okay, I have a question in a short while about the sharing of information, but just to sort of step that back a little while, it's quite common that whenever you have a discussion with, in the past it might have been NATS or the CEA or any other air navigation service provider or whoever it was, the question quickly came up with, well, yeah, but who's paying for that then? So if you're going to have a kind of a joined up flight information service, to who is going to be paying for it?
So I think we need to be clear, these are big ticket items, particularly that joined up single service provided flight information service with surveillance data, with surveillance-based traffic information being available to you. The simple answer is we don't know yet. We've got some ideas and we will go to consultation on those ideas. There are various models around Europe of how these activities can be funded, but no, the truthful answer is at the moment we don't know, but we will go to consultation on a number of ideas about how that service provision is funded. What is clear is that that, along with a couple of other elements of the lower airspace modernisation strategy, will be a statewide service provision. We're not talking about fractionalised provision. So we are talking about a statewide flight information service with surveillance being available. It'll be a common service which is recognisable wherever you are. And to that end, we expect to see the demise of individual LARS services.
So that will mean that the regional airports will be able to won't have to find excuses, so they can go and look after their car parking rather than offer a service to anyone close by.
Well, you can look at it from that point of view. The other thing that we will be turning, it's probably the incorrect phrase, but you'll appreciate where I'm coming from, turning the heat up on, is that if flight information is passed to the servicing agency of a piece of Class D airspace, there will be an expectation for them to receive it and act upon it. So if I'm approaching, and Cardiff, in fairness to them, are already demonstrating this for various operational reasons at Cardiff. They're asking for flight plan data to be provided prior to your arriving and departing, or indeed transiting at Cardiff. And the advantage of the supply of that information is, of course, that flight information is available in front of the controller. And the whole aim of this is to streamline the provision of a service. So if I'm looking to come out of Halton in the cub on a Sunday afternoon and go to Duxford, and I've planned to go through the north of the Luton control zone, that flight intent data could be shared and will be shared and acted upon by the receiving agency. And at the moment, not all providers of service within a volume of airspace receive that flight plan data or act upon it, and that's something else that we'll be looking to change.
So I guess the whole thing about sharing data is it's very easy not to be adult about it, and I could quite easily sit here and go, oh, this is really just all about making flight plans mandatory, isn't it? The flip side to that, as I think you've kind of alluded to, is that if the agencies along the route who are due to be providing a service have the information in a format that they can use and make use of and use for planning and everything else, then it makes everybody's life easier. And we certainly saw, I think, during the Olympics, that a local bimble was entirely possible should you want to do that. I mean, there are, but I think we also saw, and this came about the Olympics, if I remember rightly, and it's getting on for a while ago now, was it 2012 or something, wasn't it? That your kind of flight had to be approved. Then I think it's one thing sharing information because that then makes stuff a lot easier for people in theory. It's another thing saying, I want to go flying in my Cub from Horton, for argument's sake, but I need to wait to get someone's approval before I can, as it were. And that would kind of depend on how cynical, how much of a capital C you wanted to have on your cynical hat as to how you might view that from the beginning.
The test of the pudding is in the eating, and that came over very clear during the consultation. This is not going to be about compulsory flight planning beyond what we force the requirement for a flight plan on today. This will be about me simply and very easily being able to submit my intention of flight data, ideally at the press of the button via a flight planning tool that I'm already using, like SkyDemon. Other products are available, and then me being demonstrably able to see the benefit of that, because then I'm far more likely to take advantage of it. If I've planned to go in the Cub out of Holton, go northbound through the East Midlands zone up to Colaston, which is a trip that I do quite often, the first time that I've initiated my call for a transit at East Midlands, and they don't ask me to pass my details, they just issue me the clearance on the basis that they can see me via my flight identity from my electronic conspicuity device, and they have access to my flight plan data, then you've probably sold it to a percentage of the user community. In a similar way, in fact, anybody that's attending the BGA conference, I think next weekend, we're going to do a little presentation. There was a specific challenge during the consultation from a glider pilot out of Lasham who said, there is absolutely no use or no point in me sharing my aerial tobogganing out of Lasham via a flight plan. And what we're going, without preempting that particular presentation, what we're trying to demonstrate is actually that planned intention of flight. Even if you don't know exactly where you're going, just the fact that we're putting another air platform, another air system into the sky, when we're talking about quite intense airspace sharing operations with all kinds of new platforms, can be really useful data. But you're absolutely right, Ian. The proof of the pudding will be in the eating. I'll be the first one not to bother to click a flight plan button if it's not going to do anything for me in the Cub. And so we need to put in place this infrastructure and these services to demonstrate that we can make valuable use of the voluntary submission of this data.
And I guess linked to that, one of the questions that I've had a couple of people ask me over the years is that there was a concern that within organisations that general aviation is seen as a purely recreational endeavour, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And then you have obviously commercial air transport, but in between the two, there's no distinct line. There are people who fly piston aircraft, general aviation piston aircraft under instrument flight rules in the flight levels on full instrument flight rule flight plans, IFR flight plans. Now that I've said it, can you see that whole airspace around sort of flight level 100, 10,000 feet, kind of, it isn't hugely busy in many places. But can you see that becoming harder for general aviation to access?
I think we got the opportunity. So what didn't change hugely in the airspace modernisation strategy is the redesign of the terminal areas to support big boys aeroplanes, to support commercial air traffic out of the major airports in the southeast, and indeed the Scotland, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and down as far as Manchester. So those big terminal airspace redesigns have got some pretty strict criteria built into them about the release and utilization of volumes of airspace, and ideally giving back of lumps of Class G airspace at the very low levels by design. And in a similar fashion, it's completely embedded in the concepts for the delivery of that change, is that you need to deliver pre-plannable routes, pre-integrated routes to accommodate mid-level IFR GA operations, for example. So the whole concept of dumped at Detling will not be acceptable, because there will be a route structure to accommodate that sort of traffic to transit north-south, east-west through a redesigned TMA infrastructure. And nowadays, those concepts are built into airspace design considerations. When people are submitting their airspace change proposals, those concepts will be challenged throughout the CAP 1616 process. And the AMS embeds some of those ideas. Oh,
He's gone.
He's gone.
Right, I think next question, Jonathan.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of interest in what's going to happen to drones. Currently using temporary danger areas.
Yes.
People would love to see, obviously, more integrated airspace, and the drone companies using sense and avoid technology. How are we on that subject?
So I've got some, yes, relatively good news for you. There'll be another acronym, and it's not an acronym that's been decided, but there will be another named volume of airspace to accommodate the transition from completely segregated operations as we deliver at the moment within a TDA, through what we call, it's an ICAO term, funnily enough, it's called the accommodation phase, which is where you deliver a volume of airspace, where you experiment and test the beyond visual line of sight drone operation, BV-LOS drone operation. You test their operator's ability to integrate with everything else that's going on in the volume of airspace. Our policy people are very close to finalizing a document. The document should be quite popular with the GA community, because it gives some really clear benchmarks, is that you're not going to deliver this transitionary piece of airspace without accommodating access for other airspace users. And clearly there would be no point in doing that if you're working towards full integration. What we do know at this stage is that there are not very many players out there that are contemplating full integration without the establishment of a transponder mandatory zone. I would just reiterate, and I think we made this clear when we spoke before, that transponder mandatory zone is not a particularly useful term, because that can mean the requirement to emit in another mode. So I think it's probably quite likely that a lot of these volumes of airspace will be ADSB, automatic dependent surveillance broadcast mandatory zones, rather than the requirement for a full functioning transponder. But these volumes of airspace will demonstrate and will be serviced to accommodate access by other airspace users. And what will eventually happen is, once the beyond visual line of sight operation that's accommodated, or indeed multiple BV-LOS operations that are accommodated in this transitionary piece of airspace, can demonstrate that they can take advantage of that environment and integrate themselves, then we'll simply remove the overlaying airspace restriction and leave the TMZ there.
Sorry for disappearing. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but it did happen, and I'm back, or how far you got out of it. I just looking at the clock, I see that we are 1 minute to the time we should be finishing, and we haven't done Fantasy Hang and a few other bits and pieces yet. So I'm just going to, unless anyone's picked anything out, there were some acronyms that were picked up in there that I reckon you're probably up to about a £5 at the moment, Jonathan.
I think, in fairness, I think I did BV loss. I did do BGA. I'll put my hand up to BGA. So we are talking about the British Gliding Association.
Yeah.
Fantastic organisation. Everybody should be a member.
There was also a TMA in there as well.
Oh dear, terminal manoeuvring area. That's going to cost me £1. Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon when I get back, I reckon if we chuck in a £5 each,
I can probably just about manage a £5 for somebody like Airability, if not a lot more. Every time I've been up to Blackbush, Mike has managed to extract far more than that out of me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a good question here from Paul Kidder. Oops, there you go.
Well, yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. Yeah. Can we have Jonathan back for a longer webinar, please?
We'd love to. We'll just do a quick advert. I'm signed up, or there's 3 of us, 3 SMEs. We're all signed up for a bunch of LATEs, local airspace infringement teams, and various local working groups. But we're available for flying clubs, weddings, bar mitzvahs, whatever you like. We will happily come out and talk about the airspace modernisation strategy. I think Ian has got a link and a QR code to a sort of one-page, one-stop shop, which describes, it's quite crowded, but it does include all 8 elements of the lower airspace strategy. And I really hope that, around the bazaars, at the shows, that people will be able to question us and pin us down on exactly what we're going to do under each of the 8 headings.
Yeah. So just very briefly, one of my bugbears is the whole late thing, the local airspace infringement team. And it's a bugbear of mine because aviation is not bloody local. Aviation, it might be local for some people, but some people fly all over the place. Why is it that there's a late for? It shouldn't be a late. It should be a NATE, a national airspace infringement team. Maybe we look at different hotspots and how that's designed, but don't kind of just keep it all. Oh, we consult with all the local clubs. Well, great. A lot of people jump in their airplanes and go somewhere, not jump in their airplanes and stay local. It should be national. There you go.
Ian, like a lot of Sega rants, you're preaching to the converted in that particular case. Look, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. We've got a level of engagement between the regulator and the GA community, at least. But could we do it differently? Could we do it better? I'm sure we could.
Let's just grow out. I think at that point, because we are now running overtime, we haven't done a couple of things. I'm going to say to Jonathan, thank you very much for coming on. It's not an easy gig. But it's really appreciated that you do come on. And we would get you back and sit down, and maybe we'll have a longer webinar where it's just kind of all about this kind of thing. We don't have to fit in news and other bits and pieces as well. That would be really good just to focus on that. And
thank you very much for having me. It's very dry, but I still get excited about it. It's about the airspace that we all operate in, and I think we can make the world a little bit better in this area.
I think so, absolutely. So finally, thank you very much again, and look forward to seeing you soon. And maybe we should meet up at Blackbush to give Mike that £5 each.
Give Mike some money. Yes. Always a painful experience. Absolutely, for a good cause. Look forward to that.
Plenty of thanks for you in there. I'm gonna play this bit now. Thanks very much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I know Peter Griswold said, "Brave session, Jonathan." You've got to hand it to Jonathan. The CIA don't normally, pitch up on things like the live stream to talk about stuff, and so I fully applaud him for coming along and talking freely about stuff and engaging with all the questions. And hopefully we can get that webinar sorted, because it is worthy of longer discussion where we don't have to fit it in around Fancy Hanger.
Absolutely. Talking away.
So talking of Fancy Hanger, we're going to whiz through it. Dave and I asked the Livestream Extra viewers yesterday for an idea for Fancy Hanger. Annabelle C said, hey, with balloons being hot in the news topics, how about special shape hot air balloons? So we thought, brilliant idea. So we brought ours. You've got a favourite hot air balloon? of special shape from the past. Who's first out of us?
Looking at my little list here, it is Dave who's first.
Right. Okay. So, look, it's Fancy Hanger, and this is my fantasy balloon. It's called a steampunk balloon. Somebody going to put the picture up? Here it is. I think that's brilliant. Look at it. It's just wonderful. If you're not familiar with steampunk, it's kind of like a subgenre of science fiction, part futuristic, part old-fashioned. If you think H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, that's steampunk, and it doesn't exist at the moment, but I think it should. Brilliant.
I'm glad we've identified that it's it's a bit like Dave's single-seater warbird experience.
Fancy.
and that envelope is going to have to be. I don't think that envelope would lift your ship, because I reckon your ship would probably weigh about 130,000 pounds.
Yes. I like the way that Dave's carving himself out a little niche of just not obeying any of the rules and just creating something that's entirely.
So, well, but already he has fans. There's a couple of Dave wins in there. So yeah.
Oh, dear. Right, I think it's my turn next. I didn't get a huge amount of chance to look for this, but I was kind of looking for something that was nostalgic, something that's always we've all got a soft spot for it. The aeroplane that everyone loves. It is my button's not working.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Boeing Jumbo Jet 777. Look at that in the form of a balloon.
Hold on. What did you say? Did you say Jumbo?
No, 747. I said.
Take away his aviation man card.
Take it. 747. Why did I say that? I don't know. Oh God, what's happened to its nose? Looking at that.
It's hiding in the cloud, and there's a cathedral going on there. I feel.
At least it's having a beer in the background, which is a good thing. Yeah, it's a bit too much anhedral, but
someone just said, Peter Griswold said, follow the bear. What was the brand of beer? Was it
Hofmeister?
Yeah.
Hofmeister, yeah.
Well, that was to the Hofmeister bear.
Not sure it was ever good beer, to be honest with you, but it was.
It's a Dan Smith. Is that a 47? It's missing 2 engines.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my quick entry. So
I like your choice.
Ed, you're no. We're going to put Johnny in next.
Because Ed's going to win, isn't he? I went super simple. I just went for a can of beer.
Oh, nice,
excellent, good idea.
But this is a Lindstrand balloon, and I think we're Lindstrand based in Bristol, or is that Bailey balloons?
Cameron balloons were Bristol.
Oh, Cameron.
Elsewhere, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I measured it quickly on my screen with a ruler, and it was comes out about 100 feet tall.
Very good. More to the question: how much beer would it actually hold if it held actual beer?
I could do a volume calculation.
I'll tell you what. Maybe you figure it out while I talk about mine.
Yeah. Ed, what's yours?
So it's funny. I googled for the Virgin 747 balloon, and while I was doing that, I found this. So it turns out that Cameron have made a space shuttle, and now actually they've made 3 space shuttles in their time. Here's one pretending to launch at night. Brilliant, fully lit. I don't know. Ian's also got another shot of it during the day. But I think this is just brilliant. It's 178 feet tall, space shuttle, 115 feet wide, weighs 992 pounds. Interestingly, it's bigger than the real space shuttle, which is just 122 feet long, 78-foot wingspan, but the real one weighs 53,590 pounds. My shuttle balloon, good for 10 to 15 knots cruise speed, depending on how the wind blows. A bit slower than real shuttle at 15,200 knots.
I think that's great. I think the other thing is that we need to work on this. I need to be a little bit careful about what I say, but within our community and active on the forum, I do believe we have someone whose job it was and perhaps still is to design special shaped balloons. Who has done a bunch of work with Cameron before, from an aviation family.
Okay.
I'm not going to give away the names. I think we're going to get in touch with them privately and see if we can't get them on. Because I think that'd be. Well, I'd find it fascinating. Maybe I'll be on my own. But yeah, I don't know. Where are the votes coming in then?
Through the comments, Johnny gets my vote. Well, Giant Beer can always. Well, Ed wins from Darren. Very cool from Annabelle. Dave wins. You know, Dave wasn't real. Ed wins. Johnny wins. Dave still wins. Dave by a mile. Dave wins. Ed a close second. How much beer does the shuttle hold? That wasn't the question. Dave wins. Ed wins. Ed wins, but round to Johnny's for the after party. Fair enough. Wolf says Dave wins it. Ed a close second. Ed wins. Ed wins. Dave wins. Dave has more imagination. Dave followed by. Well, to be fair, the three of us were sticking to the rules.
Yeah.
Dave followed by Ian. Ed wins. They'll have you in stitches. Very good. Ed wins.
The irony is, if we had a fancy hanger where you could use imagination, it didn't need to be real. I bet you Dave would go for the Luscombe.
Yeah. What is Dave's balloon filled with? Luscombes, probably. Back on form. Ed wins. Dave wins.
Yeah.
Very good. Rules? Question mark. I think we'll. Oh, Johnny's done some hard sums. Is that
That's how many? That's pints.
500,000 pints. Brilliant.
You just know you get.
Aaron Lewington says Dave needs an intervention.
We do have a photo of a possible intervention, don't we?
We do. Is that the one we were talking about earlier?
That's what we were talking about earlier, yes. This is Graham Wiley with his fox bat. He's just gearing up for the balloon hunting season.
Excellent. That looks very LAA approved.
It does, doesn't it? Right. Let's. We're way over time, so let's have a quick run through any events. What events have we got?
Well, it's still obviously winter, so it's not very much going on. There's on the 18th of February. There's a Gasco safety evening at a place called Port Moke. Any idea where Port Moke is? On the 4th of March, there's a Young Aviators Big Day Out at Cosford. And if you remember, on 11th of March, Rob from Sky Demon will give a tips and tricks talk at Red Hill Aero Club. It's a ticketed evening, so you need to buy a ticket.
I think we're going to call him Rob Demon now from now on.
Hi, I'm Rob Demon.
Yeah, Port Moke. Nick Orchard's just pointed out that it's Scotland. It's a gliding club there.
Right.
So there you go. Right. On that note, I think we need to say thank you very much to Jonathan for coming along. Thank you very much, team, for doing it, and thank you very much, everyone, for watching. It's been a pleasure. I won't see you next Wednesday, I don't think, but you never know. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Don't forget, if you're not a member of the club, please join. It's £5 a month. Oh, everything you get, £5 a month. Blimey. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Demon.